You're watching CS 105.1, where I talk about sports, movies with good vibes. And we're going to need some good vibes. On today's podcast, I'm going to dive into the Nuggets season opener loss to the Thunder. Let's get it. I couldn't do this podcast without my amazing equipment, so I'd like to give a shout out to Røde for the Røde Pod Mic USB, as well as Insta360 for the webcam link that I'm using, as well as Nanlite for all of the studio lighting that I have here. What's up, everyone? So last night, the Nuggets faced the Thunder in their season opener. It was a home game, so it was also their home opener, and they lost 102-87. Not the kind of loss you want to have or the kind of game you want to have for your season opener, definitely. And it's always good to start the season off on a win. So it's really disappointing to have any kind of loss. But if you're going to lose, it just they were lost in the worst possible way almost. Not as bad as the Knicks lost, but still it was a fairly bad loss. But the Knicks, speaking of the Knicks, I will say that in their season opener against the Celtics, they had a blowout. And everyone's talking about, well, they're not ready. They're not a contender. Same thing now they're talking about Denver. They're not a contender because they lost to OKC. OKC and the Celtics both are very strong. They look strong right now as well. They were both the number one seeds of their divisions last season. So, I mean, I wouldn't have expected either of those teams to be lesser than what they were last season. If anything, I would expect them to be stronger this season. So I'm not surprised that they came out with a fight, both of them. And it was just kind of missed opportunities for the Knicks and the Nuggets to kind of rally against those teams. But I'm not panicking. It's one game. There are 81 more games for both teams. So, and I'm still very positive on the Knicks. I'm still positive on Denver. So, I'm not worried about that. And especially because now, tonight was the second game for the Knicks. They faced the Pacers and they won. Brunson had an amazing game. I didn't actually get to watch it because it's on ESPN, and fuck ESPN because it's so difficult to get them. I really wish the NBA would move away from ESPN. It's very frustrating. As you know, from my previous episodes, I talk about feeds and everything, and the ESPN is just way too difficult. You have to be basically paying to be able to watch it, and I don't believe that you should have to be paying to watch any kind of sports. I grew up in the age that you didn't have to, and so to now have to be faced to paying for that is just really unfortunate. And I wish that I already pay for the league pass, so it would be nice if all games were included in the league pass because it's already fairly expensive. So that's my soapbox on the feed stuff. Don't have to get into that anymore in this episode, but moving on. So the Knicks won. I am hopeful for the Nuggets as well. But on the plus side, even though they lost last night, the Avs won. They won against the Utah Hockey Club, going to be called the Yetis, but they won 5-1 against them, which was awesome in their fourth game-winning streak. So that's awesome. Love to see the Avs win. Nathan McKinnon, the dog, doing great, and especially Cale Makar and Rantanen. And even Juice is doing really well as ever since they've gotten him in as the main goalie lately. They've been really doing well. I'm not going to say I don't hate against Georgiev. I think he's great. I think he just needs a little bit of time to get back to the way that he does, because he, I believe, was the reason that we went as far as we did in the playoffs last season. So I'm not a Georgie hater. I love Georgie. So, and then the World Series just started tonight. Dodgers won. in an amazing ending of that game. I just caught the last part of it, and man, that was tense. So glad that the Yankees lost, and I hope that they get swept. That would be amazing to see the Yankees get swept. But go Dodgers! Love that they won. So I think that's about it, right? I don't need to talk about anything else, right? It was Nuggets didn't play. That they have yet. They're still in preseason, right? And it kind of seems like they are still in preseason. So their game last night, oh my goodness. So it was 4 quarters of some good basketball and a lot of shit basketball. Nuggets started off really well. I'm sure if you've watched any other feeds, you know that they've started off really well, and then halfway through the first quarter, they started to tank a little bit. And that was kind of the same story that happened when we faced OKC last week in the preseason. And so there's just something about OKC that really throws the Nuggets off. And I don't know what it is, because we've been able to beat the Timberwolves. We're like even matched with the Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves, I feel like, are better than OKC. But somehow OKC has been able to throw us off, and I don't know why it is. The most frustrating thing being a Nuggets fan is seeing the Nuggets not look like they're the home team, especially because they train in the altitude. And a lot of people think the altitude is bullshit. It's not bullshit. I promise you, go visit Colorado. Go to Denver. Go up to Aspen and everything. If you live anywhere other than like 4,000 feet elevation, you will feel the difference. And so the fact that they train in that high altitude, and yet they were the ones that were sluggish last night, not OKC. OKC continues to look like really good athletes. They are constantly running laps around the Nuggets, and I don't get it. I don't know how they're being trained. There's not much of that showing. That just maybe because Oklahoma is not very high altitude, so I don't get why they would be more athletic than the Nuggets are right now. I mean, you have the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Like, people go to Colorado to train to get better, to get more fit. And so that, I don't understand that. So both teams were kind of shit throughout this game. The Thunder was just less shit last night, and they just managed to get that win. There was a lot of horrible plays from all players, really, but there was a couple of main key horrible plays that were unfortunately by Aaron Gordon, which is my man. He's Mr. Nugget, and I'm so proud that of the front office for giving him an extension, that he's staying in Denver. We love Aaron Gordon, but he had a bad game in the first as for the season opener. There was one play, and I saw that my guys in the DNVR podcast call us out as well. Adam did that. AG got the ball. He was wide open. He was right underneath the basket. He was wide open. Could have easily have dunked the basketball, and instead threw it to CB in the corner for him to do a three, which was missed. I don't know why he didn't just dunk the basketball. I'm sure he wanted to get others involved, and he wanted to hopefully maybe try to get an extra point of like going three, but playing safe doesn't always go wrong for you. Like, it can help you. So I would that was really fresh, infuriating to see when that happened. And then another play from Aaron Gordon happened when he tried to pass the ball, and it's kind of up in the air to see who he really was passing it to. It could have easily have been CB again, or it could have been Jamal Murray, but it kind of went in between them, and neither one of them caught it. And then it went to the backcourt, and both of them were just staring at the ball. Meanwhile, SGA, who was behind them closest to the Nuggets basket, followed through with the play, and he ran past them to get the ball and up into a layup. Like, that was just very embarrassing to see that. Like, the DNVR guys were saying that there was a lot of like sluggish moments for the Nuggets, that they looked old in that game and out of shape. I agree to a certain standpoint. Like I said, like they looked unfit compared to OKC. And they looked really tired. I don't know if they just maybe overdid the practicing, maybe. I don't know. But it was very disappointing to see that a lot of those kind of plays. Russell Westbrook did some horrible plays last night. Not a great start for him. He had like one really good block that I felt like brought some energy to the team, but then it wasn't enough to sustain them throughout the entire game. And the bench just really sucked the life out of the Nuggets. They've got to do something about the bench. I mean, I understand that P-Watt didn't really get a chance to practice with the team a lot during preseason because he got injured, which always, slows things down, and he's probably still feeling a little bit of it right now. But it's really just frustrating when we continue to have bench problems. Dario Saric also had a horrible night. He looked really sluggish with like trying to retrieve the ball at times, rebounds and everything. And Julian Strawther struggled. He only made 6 points last night. He's had such a great summer league and preseason, and to see him kind of struggle was also really unfortunate. Thought that if anything, he would be one of the major players. MPJ was ramping up, so I was hoping that he would show up. He was one of the higher scoring Nuggets, but he still only made 15 points. So I mean, they all kind of did look slow and out of shape. They once again did not look like the home team. OKC looked like they were the ones that owned Denver, and that the Nuggets were the ones visiting. Let's get into the stats here, right? So Michael Porter Jr. scored 15 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and was made, what was it? He was 5 from 17 for field goals, was a 29.4 percentage. That is not him. He's more of like a 40%, 50%, more like a player, to be like half of what he was last night. It was just unfortunate. He was 3 from 10 from threes. Overall 3-point, like the Nuggets were 7 for 38 in 3 points. Which, I mean, OKC wasn't much better. They were 8 for 36. So, I mean, I'm not going to shit on the Nuggets for being bad on, at 3-point shots, because the opposing team was also equally horrible. Like I said, they were just less horrible, but it was very marginal. I mean, they were only 102. And I know that a lot of OKC fans like to amp up their team and everything, but 102 for their team is also kind of unusual. They're usually a higher scoring team, so there is something to say for the Denver's defense last night for holding them only to 102. So, but moving on, MPJ also was he had 2 free throws. He made them both, so at least he didn't miss any free throws. He was 100% on that one. And he had 1 turnover and 2 personal fouls. So not horrible with the personal fouls, not extremely horrible with the turnovers. There were several turnovers. Overall, the Nuggets had 15 turnovers to Oklahoma's 12 turnovers. The other thing that I was going to say with that game is that it felt very inconsistent ref calling. There was several moments where and I hate saying, we would have won if the refs. Like, if it comes down to that you always have to persevere over the refs, and you need to be better than both the refs and the team, regardless of what happens. So I don't like to blame it on the refs. But there was several inconsistent plays. There was a couple of plays that were overturned, or calls, I should say, that were overturned by OKC that the Nuggets did to OKC, and it was called a foul. But yet with the OKC, it was deemed not a foul. Like, Malone got a technical for yelling at the ref because of this kind of stuff. And I'm right there with him. Like, it was kind of frustrating to see some of the stuff that was miscalled. There was also Jokić at one point got his jersey pulled, and it was never called. But then in that same kind of transition for OKC, they got fouled and they called that one, but not the one against the Nuggets. So it was kind of a lot like that. Gordon was fouled several times, but never called. Westbrook was fouled several times, not called. But then SGA always gets every free throw or every foul called for him. That's one of the most frustrating things about SGA, is that the refs love SGA, I feel like, and they hate Jokić because Jokić never gets the fouls that he should rightfully get called for him. And a lot of people think that SGA deserved the MVP last year. I don't. I know Stephen A. Smith voted for him. I don't know why, because you can't say that a player is better just because he makes more points. And most of his points were made off of free throws. You can't say that's a good player. Like, yes, he's good, but he's not MVP worthy. Jokić objectively makes all of the Nuggets better. And he consistently gets either a double-double or a triple-double every single game, just about. There's very few games where he doesn't get one of those. So, like, he's always consistently involving the entire team. There is a drastic difference between his time on the floor versus when he's off the floor. Like, that already shows that he makes the team better. So I think that the argument is already kind of solved or like ended when you say that most valuable player. We're talking about the most valuable player. OKC, SGA is not the most valuable player. He is one of the better players on the team, but you have several other good players on the team, which is the same thing for the Celtics. Like, a lot of people think that Jason Tatum should have been MVP, but you have Jaylen Brown and you have Drew Holiday, and then Derek White. Like, they make that team just as good as Jason Tatum does. If you take Jason Tatum out, they're still going to be good. And so when you talk about most valuable player within that team, it's 100% Jokić. The only other player that I would argue is up there and could contend with that is Luka. Luka definitely, if you take Luka out, I mean, you still have Kyrie, but overall, I think Luka makes the Mavericks as good as they are right now. So SGA, his stats are, he made 28 points, so he was the highest scoring player last night, and next to Holmgren. Like, they both were the ones carrying their team, but neither one of them had a double-double or a triple-double. That was all Jokić. Jokić was the only player on both teams that did a triple-double. So Jokic's points, he was 16, kind of a lower scoring pointage for a game for him, but still, double figures there. And then he had 12 rebounds, 13 assists, which both are like extremely high normally for him. So that's like right on the mark for him. He had 2 steals, 1 block, and then he was 6 for 13 in the field goal attempts, which not great. He was 46%. So he was 1 for 3 on 3 points made. He was 33% there. He was 3 for 4 in free throws, so he missed 1 free throw, 75% there. And then he had 3 turnovers. He was one of the highest. There's several other players that had 3 turnovers in the Nuggets, but he was one of them. And then he had 3 personal fouls, so he got the most fouls called on him versus the rest of the team. But no one on either team got close to really fouling out. So that already kind of shows you that there was a lot of inconsistency. And the most frustrating thing with the beginning of the season of NBA is that the refs are so critical on things, and then a lot of times they will miss stuff. And so it's like when you're being so critical on other things, but then you're missing other things, like you need to be overall or just more relaxed. And a lot of it, most of the time, it's just more inconsistent. So I actually prefer towards the end of the season when they just kind of let up and let players play. But then we have Aaron Gordon. He had 12 points, 9 rebounds, so almost a double-double for him. 2 assists, 1 steal, and he was 5 from 12 for field goals. He was 41%, and then he only attempted 1 3-point shot and missed it, so he was a 0% 3-point last night. He did go to the free throw line once, made both baskets, so he was 100% on the free throws, which is nice, because normally last season that was one of the struggles that he had, was making free throws. So it's nice to see him make at least both of his free throws there. He had 2 turnovers, obviously one of those I just talked about with throwing the basket to who knows who, and causing SGA, or leading SGA to lay up. And then he had 1 personal foul. Then Jamal Murray was 12 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and he was 4 from 13 from field goals, 30 percentage there, 2 for 5 on 3 points made, 40% there. He also went to the foul line once, made both baskets, which is kind of what you expect from him. He is one of our higher free throw shooters anyways, so he had 3 turnovers as well. So same as Jokić. And then he had 2 personal fouls. Not a great game for him, although he's had worse games, so I wouldn't put it all on him. And again, like, you can't put the sluggishness on one player alone. It's a team sport, and they all equally looked fairly sluggish. So I'm not going to hate on Jamal Murray last night. Like, I know that he can be better, and he will be better. He's going to have some off games, and this is just one of those. So hopefully he's going to bounce back tomorrow. Fingers crossed. And then the other big question was, would Christian Braun show up and cover that space for the loss of KCP? And I think last night he definitely owned up to it. He made 16 points, so same as Jokić. He had 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He was 8 from 15 from field goals, 53 percentage. He was the highest percentage Nugget last night in shooting field goals. He missed all 3 3-pointers that he attempted, so he was 0 there. And then he didn't go to the foul line at all. And then he had 3 turnovers as well. So there was 3 players that had 3 turnovers. That was Jokić, Brown, and Murray. They need to clean that up. Definitely need to clean that up. Those, like, the starters should not be the ones turning over the ball. No one typically should be the ones, but definitely not the starters. And then he had 1 personal foul. So he had a lot more energy, I feel like, than everyone else. So it was really nice to see that he stepped into that role as a shooting guard, taking over for KCP. Moving to the bench, Julian Strother, like I said, made only 6 points. He had 1 assist, 1 steal, And then he was 3 for 6 from field goals, so he was 50% there. And he went to the foul line once, missed both free throws, which is not good, especially for how good he's been playing lately. He had one turnover and 2 personal fouls. Westbrook had 6 points as well, but he had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, and he was 2 from 10 from field goals, so he was 20%. He was 1 for 6 and 3 points, which was really frustrating. He was 1 for 4 in free throws. He just kept on throwing bricks for free throws. It was unfortunate. And then he had 2 turnovers, no personal fouls, which is surprising because normally he does get called for fouls. So P-Watt in his return, he had 2 points. He had 6 rebounds, 1 assist, and then he had 2 blocks. 1 block, he had to jump over Murray, which was crazy. Like, I was like seeing it happen in real time. Like, I was just fearful for both Murray and him getting hurt, and then being like I saw the future of the Nuggets just kind of get washed away in that one move, and luckily neither one of them got hurt. So, but that fear definitely just like came in me, like Chief Brody and Jaws with that smash zoom on him. So, yeah, he was 1 for 7 in field goal attempts, 14.3%. He was 0 for 4 and 3 points made, so he shot 4 times for 3 point. Sorry, did I say free throws? I meant 3-pointers. He was 0 for 4 in 3 points, so he didn't make any 3 points. He didn't go to the foul line. He didn't have any turnovers and no personal fouls, so I guess that's 1+ for him. So, and then you had Sarge, who didn't make a lot of anything. He had 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal. He had 1 personal foul. I mean, he didn't really get a lot in there, and then everyone else didn't make anything. So, like, it was, kind of sad. Like I said, overall. So you had rebounds. The Nuggets had 57 rebounds, which I've said before last season, that the majority of teams who win usually get more rebounds. And there's certain circumstances where that doesn't happen, and last night was one of those. So the Nuggets out-rebound the OKC. They got 57 to OKC's 49. Assists, the Nuggets had 29 to the OKC's 23, so they out-assist. The ball was moving more with the Nuggets. The Nuggets had 11 steals to the OKC's 9. And then blocks was the only thing that the OKC outdid the Nuggets with. So Nuggets had 7 blocks, OKC had 13. And that most of that came from Holmgren, who was just frustrating to watch. Because he looks like a skeleton, like a caveman skeleton with his scraggly little beard. I wish he would shave it because it looks gross, but whatever. So those are the stats. The takeaways from last night's game, it was that the defense was good. It wasn't their best defense that they can be playing, but it was still good enough to hold the OKC, which is usually a high-scoring team, down to 102. Like I said, both teams were struggling, so like you can't really put a lot of shame on the Nuggets for last night's loss. It's going to happen, and it's not going to say that they're not a contender. A lot of people already discount them now from losing 1 game at the very beginning of the season. I don't agree with that at all. Same thing with the Knicks. I'm not going to discount them from being contender. I still believe the Knicks are the biggest contender in the East. I still believe the Nuggets are still one of the biggest contenders in the West. There's a lot of things that they can clean up, and most of that is offense plays. They need to be making shots for one. They need to be making sure that when Jokić is doubling up, that he's taking the focus away from the rest of the opposing team so that someone else can get open for a shot and make it. They need to be draining these baskets. And the fact that Christian Braun had a good night last night gives me hope too that we don't really need KCP, even though I wish he would come back. He was one of our best defense players, but Christian Braun seems to be stepping up for that. And so I can kind of see where Calvin Booth, he had to make the difficult decision of whether or not to keep the entire team together or, let someone go. And if you had to leave someone go, it just had to be KCP, unfortunately. As long as you keep the core four of MPJ, AG, Yoke, and Jamal, then you can switch out Christian Braun with a Julian Strother or a Peyton Watt. But I think that moving forward, their biggest things is going to have to focus on now sustaining that defense, maybe even getting that up a little stronger, getting their offense back up to the way it normally is. We need to see these successful baskets. There was missed dunks made. Even Yoke had a great spin move on, I think it was Holmgren, but then he missed the dunk. He was going up for a dunk and he missed it. And they called it a block, but I don't think it was really a block. I don't give credit to OKC for that one. It was more on Yoke for missing it. So there just needs some things that here and there that need to be cleaned up there. And then the bigger thing is the bench. That if this continues and we keep on having the bench woes, they're going to have to trade someone. And I think that if they're going to trade someone, it might be a Christian Braun or Peyton Watson alongside with, a Zeke Naji kind of package or whatever to get someone else that can shoot. I don't think they would trade Westbrook because they just signed him on for 1 year. And so I don't think that they're going to trade him anytime soon, at least this season. So, or Dario Saric. That could, though, crazier things have happened, so they could easily have be trading those two come the deadline for the trading. But otherwise, I think that they had a lot to, it wasn't horrible for them. It was a little bit embarrassing for sure, but I'm not going to discount them. They just need to, dust themselves off, get back on the horse, and tomorrow's game against the Clippers. What we need to be looking forward to is the Clippers took it to the Suns. The Suns and Clippers always have very intense games, and the other night when the Suns won, they didn't win by a lot, and they won in overtime by only 2 points. So the Clippers are definitely showing up. And you got Harden, who's, kind of like a Luka originally. He makes some really good baskets, and he draws the focus to him for other people to make baskets. So it's going to be another challenge for them. I want to see them really amp up their defense, amp up their offense as well, drain those buckets. If they have time to gather the ball and then shoot. There was a lot of time that they had last night, and they still missed. So, that needs to be rectified there. Hoping they win. Tomorrow, I will have a special guest on my podcast. I'm going to be talking with my good friend, Dennis Hodge. He's a Clippers fan, so we're going to talk after the game. He'll be on the show, and we're going to go over and just kind of break down tomorrow's game, get some insight on both sides, and so look forward to that. So that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a like and subscribe if you did, and share it with your friends. And you've been listening to CS 105.1, where I talk about sports and movies with good vibes. We'll check you later.